Recording in progress.
Good morning, guys. You are getting my screen and voice. Please confirm. Right. So last session, just we discussed about the course content. So today is the first session, guys, which I am going to start as actual course. In today's session, we are going to understand what is DevOps, why DevOps is required. So DevOps, so life cycle we are going to understand. So what we are going to cover in today's session, what is DevOps, why DevOps is required, and the DevOps life cycle. So can anyone tell me what is DevOps? Can anyone tell me what is DevOps, guys? Anyone have any idea? Okay, no problem. Observe carefully. What is DevOps? Guys, observe very carefully. DevOps is not a programming language. DevOps is not a programming language, and DevOps is not a tool, and DevOps is not a framework. DevOps is not a programming language. DevOps is not a tool. DevOps is not a framework. Then what is this? Just it is a culture. Just it is a process. Just it is a set of practices in every software industry. What is DevOps, guys? DevOps is a culture, or DevOps is a process, or DevOps is a set of practices every software company follows. With this DevOps culture, what we can do? With this DevOps culture, we can deliver the project to client easily and quickly. By using this DevOps culture, we can deliver the project to client easily and quickly. Right? We will use this DevOps culture to automate the delivery process. Guys, before DevOps, delivering the project to client is manual process, guys. Right? Once this DevOps came, so with this DevOps culture, what we are doing, we are automated the delivery process to the client, guys. Okay, so please confirm, guys, what is DevOps? DevOps is not a programming language. DevOps is not a programming language. It is not a tool. It is not a framework. It is not a framework, guys. Then what is this? Just it is a culture. DevOps is a culture. Right? Or DevOps is a culture, or it is a process, or it is a set of practices in software industry. Read it, guys. DevOps is not a programming language, and DevOps is not a tool, and it is not a framework. Then what is this? Just it is a culture, or it is a process, or it is a set of practices in software industry. With this DevOps culture, what we can do, guys? With this DevOps culture, right, we can deliver the project to client easily and quickly. With this DevOps culture, with this DevOps process, with this DevOps set of practices, we can deliver the project to client easily and quickly. Right. DevOps is used to automate the delivery process. DevOps is used to automate the delivery process. Guys, should be two-way communication. Please respond, guys. So read it once. What is DevOps? It is not a programming language, it is not a tool, and it is not a framework. Then what is this? Just it is a culture. Just it is a process. Just it is a set of practices which companies follow, guys. Right? With this DevOps culture, we can deliver the project to client easily and quickly. So DevOps is used to automate the delivery process. Please read the steps once. Please read the steps.
You want us to read it loud?
I will come. We can say DevOps is a combination of development and operations, guys. I will come to there, 1 minute. So why we are saying that, I will explain. DevOps is a combination of development and operations. Correct. It is true. Guys, observe carefully. So now you guys are going to get complete picture what is DevOps, why we are going for DevOps, guys. Observe very carefully. See, guys, in my project, development team is available, guys. This is my development team. This is my development team, guys. Development team means multiple people will work. Development team means multiple people will work, guys. Okay. So now observe carefully. Okay. So this is the development team which is available in my project. What development team will do? Development team will develop the application as per client requirement by using some programming languages. So what programming languages we have? Java, Python, C#, like that several programming languages are available. By using any one of these programming languages, they will develop the applications as per client requirement. So once the development is completed, what they will do? They will upload the code into the source code repository. So first they will develop the application in their local system and they will test the application in their local system. Once they confirm that everything is working fine, they will upload that code into the source code repository. Here we have source code repositories. Source code repository is available, guys. Okay, fine. So as a source code repository, here we are going to use GitHub, guys. GitHub we are going to use as a source code repository here. Okay, so once the development is completed, so these people should upload the code into the source code repository. So once they uploaded the code into the source code repository, with that developer job is completed. What developers will do, as per client requirement, they will develop the application, and first they will test that application in their local system. Then they will upload that code into the source code repository. Okay, so with this, developer's job is completed. So next, operations team will come into the picture. Operations team will come into the picture. So what operations team will do? Operations team needs to deploy this application in the servers. Operations team needs to deploy this application in the multiple servers. If they want to deploy this application in the server, first they should make it ready the infrastructure to deploy the application, to run the application. Whatever the infrastructure is required, they need to make it ready, that infrastructure first. Then only they can deploy the application. Okay, observe carefully. So developer's job is developing the application as per client requirement and uploading that code into the source code repository. So developers will not deliver this project to client. To deliver this project to client, we have separate team. That team is called as operations team. So once the developer's job is completed, then operations team will come into the picture. What they will do, so whatever the code they uploaded into the source code repository, they will deploy this code into the servers. If they want to deploy the application into the server, first they need to make it ready the infrastructure, then only they can deploy. See guys, without having required infrastructure, they can't able to run the application. Suppose if you want to start one business, guys, right? So you want to start one restaurant business. Right? Without having proper infrastructure, can you start the restaurant business immediately? No, you can't able to start. First, you need to make it ready the required infrastructure to start the restaurant business. What infrastructure is there which is required for restaurant business? You should have the proper building, and in that you should have the kitchen setup, and you should have the dining setup, you should have the plates, spoons, etc, etc, etc. Then only you can start the restaurant business. So here also, if you want to deploy any application, first you should make it ready the required infrastructure. Okay, so where we need to create that infrastructure? Earlier, so they will create the infrastructure on their premises only, on their company only. That is called as in-house infrastructure or on-premise infrastructure. Earlier, right, infrastructure, every company infrastructure will create on their companies only, on their premises only. That is called as in-house or on-premise infrastructure. So because of that, so many challenges are there, guys. If you set up the infrastructure in your company, if you set up the infrastructure in your premises, so many challenges are there. To overcome those challenges, nowadays, every company will go for public cloud. They are not creating the infrastructure on their premises. Every company is going for public cloud, guys. Okay, so here first we need to create the infrastructure in the public cloud. So here what cloud we are going to use? Here we are going to use AWS cloud. Here we are going to use AWS cloud as a public cloud, guys. Here AWS cloud we are going to use. So now in this AWS cloud only, we are going to create the required infrastructure to run the application. Whatever the infrastructure is required, that infrastructure we are going to create in the AWS cloud. So what you required? I want one virtual machine. See here, I am going to take one virtual machine. This is Linux virtual machine. So this is Linux virtual machine, guys. Linux VM. Okay, so next, inside this virtual machine, I need some servers, guys. I need some servers and softwares. All those things I'm going to install. I'm going to install in the Linux virtual machine. Okay, what server you are going to install? I'm going to install HTTPD web server, guys. Here I'm installing one web server to run the web application. And inside the web server, I need to deploy the application, guys. Inside the web server, I need to deploy the application. Guys, observe carefully. If you want to deploy the application, first you should make it ready the required infrastructure to run that application. Where you will create the infrastructure? I will create the infrastructure in the AWS cloud. So in the AWS cloud, first we are creating the Linux virtual machine, and we are installing some web server. In this web server only we are going to deploy the application. So this is required infrastructure to run my application. Okay, fine. So now observe carefully. As a operations team, what you need to do? Guys, I am not using DevOps word as of now. I am not using DevOps word, guys. I will use that word later. First, I am calling it as operations team. First, I am calling it as operations team. Okay. As a operations team, so what is your roles and responsibilities? What you need to do first? Guys, observe very carefully. As a operations team, first you need to create the required infrastructure to run the application. Okay. First, what you need to do? You need to create the required infrastructure. Infrastructure setup. You need to take care of the infrastructure setup. Infrastructure setup means what things will come here? Missions are required. Missions you need to make it ready. Next, right? So software installations you need to take care. Software installations in those missions. Next, server setup is required. Server setup in those missions. Next, database setup is required. Database setup is required. Next, network setup is required. Network setup is required. So next, storage is required. Storage is required. Storage setup. Right. So next we should have power setup. Power setup. All these things will come under infrastructure only. First, what you need to do? You need to make it ready the required infrastructure. All these things will come under infrastructure only, guys. Virtual machines are required. Software installations you need to do. Server you need to install. Database you need to install. Network you need to make it ready. Storage setup is required. Power setup is required. All these things will come under infrastructure setup only. Okay, guys, if you want to start the restaurant business, one building is required, dining is required, kitchen setup is required, tables are required, spoons, plates are required. So those are the restaurant infrastructure. But here software infrastructure means what things will come? Software infrastructure means computers, software installations, servers, database, network, storage, power. All these things will come under software infrastructure. First, you need to make it ready this infrastructure as a operations team member. Okay, so infrastructure is ready. So then what I need to do? I need to deploy the application in the servers. Where your application is available? Your application is available in the source code repository. So first you need to download the code from the source code repository. As a second step, we need to download the code from source code repository. Source code repository. You need to download the code from source code repository. Okay. So once you download the code, directly you will deploy. Directly you will deploy that code. Directly you will hand over that code to the client. No. Suppose if your application is developed by using Java, client will not understand Java. Suppose if you develop the application by using Python, client will not understand that Python. Suppose if you develop the application by using C#, client will not understand that C#. Then how you will deliver the project, guys? You need to give that project in the executable format, guys. You can't able to deliver that code as it is to the client. So then once you download the project from the source code repository, then what you need to do? You need to compile the code and build the code, guys. Compilation means what? Converting from user understandable format to machine understandable format is called as compilation. converting user understandable format to computer understandable format is called as compilation. Right? Building means what, guys? We need to build means you need to verify how the right. So test cases are there, right? All those things is we need to create one artifact, guys. Right? Compilation and build we need to do, guys. Okay. As a third step, operations team should do the compilation and packaging, guys. We can say compile, and package. Fine. So next what we need to do, we need to review the code. Here developers are implemented the code. So next here we need to review that code. How developers are implemented the code. Whether they followed the coding standards or not. Whether they have written the unit test cases or not. All unit test cases are passed or not. Code coverage is 80% minimum is there or not. All those things we need to verify. Developer written the code. We don't know how developer written the code. We need to review that code. Reviewing means what you will do. Developer followed the coding standards or not. Developer written any duplicate code or duplicate code. Code coverage is there or not. Unit test cases are there or not. All the unit test cases are success or not. All these things we need to verify under the review. So here, fourth step, code review we need to perform. Code review we need to perform. Okay. So once code review is done, code review is success, then what we need to do? We need to deploy the application in the server. Deploy the application. Deploy the application in the server. Guys, observe carefully, guys. First, let me explain up to here, then I will come to the next points, guys. Okay, guys, please focus. Developers are developed the application as per client requirement and they uploaded that code into the source code repository. As a source code repository, here we are using GitHub. Okay, once developers are uploaded the code into the source code repository, with that developer's job is completed. So then operations team will come into the picture. What operations team needs to do? They need to deliver the project to client. They need to deploy the applications in the server. If they want to do that activity, first they need to make it ready the infrastructure to run that application. If they want to run the application, they should make it ready the infrastructure. So first they need to create the infrastructure. Where they are going to maintain the infrastructure in the public cloud. Which public cloud we are going to use? AWS cloud. In the AWS cloud, they are creating one Linux virtual machine and they are installing some softwares and they are installing one web server. In the web server, we need to deploy the application. Okay, guys, observe very carefully. If you want to set up this infrastructure, how you will do this? If you want to set up this infrastructure, how you will do this? For this, we have multiple ways are available. In multiple ways, you can do the infrastructure setup. What ways are there? One is UI. User interface is available. Through user interface, you can create the infrastructure. Or by using infrastructure as code, IAC tools. We have some IAC tools are available. IAC stands for what? Infrastructure as code. Infrastructure as code also we can create the infrastructure. Infrastructure as code means here we need to write some script. Here we need to write some code. By using that code also we can create the infrastructure in the public cloud. So here to create the infrastructure we have two ways, guys. One is the through user interface. Second one is through infrastructure as code. But in the companies UI is not recommended. UI is not recommended. Companies will expect this IAC only. As the IAC tool, what we are going to learn? Here we are going to learn Terraform. Terraform. By using this Terraform, we will create the infrastructure in the AWS cloud. Okay. Here, first we need to create the infrastructure. To create that infrastructure, we are going to use Terraform. By using Terraform, we will create. Next, guys. Whatever the infrastructure you have created, whatever the missions you have created, in those missions, we need to install the softwares. Okay. How you will install the softwares? Maybe you have created 100 servers. You have created 100 missions. In all the 100 missions, you need to install some softwares. If you want to connect each and every machine, and if you want to install the softwares in each and every machine, it will take a lot of time. To avoid that, here we are going to use one configuration management tool. By using the configuration management tool, we can install the packages, we can install the softwares in those machines. What configuration management tool you are going to use? Here we are going to use Ansible. Ansible we are going to use as a configuration management tool. By using this Ansible, we will install the servers, we will install the software in the virtual machines. To create the machines and all, we are using Terraform. To install the softwares and all, we are going to use Ansible. Then you guys know network, storage, power, servers, all these things are required, guys. Fine. Here guys, mainly to set up the infrastructure and to install the software, we are going to use Terraform and Ansible. Terraform is a infrastructure as code tool. Ansible is a configuration management tool. We will use Terraform to create the machines. To create the virtual machines, we will use the Terraform. We will use Ansible to install the software, to install the packages in those machines. Guys, please confirm up to here clear. Please confirm up to here clear. Everyone should respond. Everyone. Stephen, right? Everyone. Okay. Very good. Next case. Once infrastructure is ready, as a operations person, what you need to do? You need to download the code from the source code repository. Code is available in the source code repository. You need to download. How you will download? To download the code from the source code repository, here we are going to use Git the software. Git client software is available. By using that Git client software, we will clone the project from the source code repository. We will download the project from the source code repository by using Git client software. So you have downloaded the project. Then what you need to do? I need to compile the code and I need to package that code as an artifact. I need to compile the code and I need to package that code as an artifact. To do this compilation and packaging, what tool we are going to use? Here we are going to use Maven. Maven we are going to use. What is the purpose of this Maven? By using Maven, we can compile the code and we can package the code as a artifact. Artifact means jar file or var file. Those are called as the artifacts. Right here, the entire code, a project can contains hundreds of files. Right? So we need to bundle all those files. We need to package all those files as a artifact. That will be done by Maven guys. Okay, once the third step is completed, then fourth step. What is the fourth step? Code review. We need to do the code review guys. Whatever the code developers are implemented, that code we need to review. For code review purpose, here we are going to use SonarQube. SonarQube tool we are going to use to perform the code review. Okay, next, once code review is successfully completed, then we will deploy that application in the server. To deploy the application in the server, we need to use deployment tool. As a deployment tool, we are going to use Jenkins. By using Jenkins, we will deploy the applications in the server. Guys, observe carefully. Right, in the DevOps tools, whatever we have written, all the tools are covering here or not. Right, GitHub we are using. Right, next, Maven we are using. Next, right, SonarQube we are using. Next, Jenkins we are using. Next, Terraform we are using. Next, Ansible we are using. All these things we are going to learn. See guys, now you may ask, then what is the purpose of Docker and Kubernetes? Here Jenkins is deploying the application in the single server. It is very good. So then what is the need of Docker and Kubernetes? Very good question. See guys, if you want to manage your application in the single server, then Jenkins is enough. But in real time, we will manage our application in multiple servers. We will manage our application in multiple environments. If you want to manage your application in multiple environments, then we need this Docker and Kubernetes. Docker is what? Docker is a containerization tool. Kubernetes is what? Kubernetes is a orchestration tool. By using Jenkins, what we can do? We can manage the application in the single server. If you want to manage the application in the multiple servers, then you should use Docker and Kubernetes. Okay, right here, Docker we are going to use as a containerization tool. Docker is a containerization tool. Containerization tool, we are using this Docker, guys. Next here, right, Kubernetes. Kubernetes we are going to use as orchestration tools, guys. Kubernetes we are going to use as orchestration tools. Guys, if you want to manage your application in the single server, then Jenkins is enough. But if you want to manage your application in the multiple servers, then we need to go for this Dockers and Kubernetes. Okay, now observe very carefully. Okay, fine. Once you deploy the application in the server, then we need to monitor how my application is running, how my application is processing the request, how my cluster is running. Everything we need to monitor. Everything we need to monitor, guys. To do that monitorization, to do that monitoring, here we have monitoring tools are available. What monitoring tools are available? Here we have Prometheus and Grafana. By using this Prometheus and Grafana, we can monitor the cluster, guys. Right, to monitor cluster logs. Guys, monitoring cluster logs means what? Here we will create the Kubernetes cluster. In the Kubernetes cluster only we will deploy the applications. That cluster we can monitor by using this Prometheus and Grafana. Now, I want to monitor my application logs, not only cluster logs. I want to monitor my application logs. For that, we are going to use ELK stack. So, what is ELK stands for? E stands for Elasticsearch. L stands for Logstash. K stands for Kibana. Elasticsearch, Logstash and Kibana. So these are all what, guys? These are all we will use to monitor the application logs, guys. We will use all these things to monitor application logs. To monitor application logs, we will use all these things, guys. To monitor the cluster logs, we will use Prometheus, Grafana. To monitor application logs, we will use this ELK stack, guys. Observe very carefully here, right? So next, guys, here Maven is creating the package. Maven is creating the artifact. So I want to store that artifact in Artifactory repository for future purpose. Maybe in future, I won't use those artifacts in other projects, guys. For that, whatever the artifacts Maven is creating, those artifacts we need to store in some location. For that, we are going to use Artifactory repository. As the Artifactory repository, we are going to use Nexus. Nexus we are going to use as Artifactory repository. Nexus we are going to use as Artifactory repository. Here we will store all the build artifacts for future purpose. Guys, observe very carefully here. See, guys. See, if you want to deploy the application in the server, if you want to deliver the project to client, as a operations team engineer, you need to perform all these things, guys. First, you need to make it ready the required infrastructure. To create that infrastructure, we are going to use Terraform. Then you need to install some softwares in that infrastructure. For that, we are going to use Ansible. Next, you need to download the code from the source code repository. For that, we are using Git client software. Then you need to compile the code and package the code. For that, we are using Maven. Then you need to perform the code review. For that, we are going to use SonarQube. Then you need to deploy the application in the server. For that, we are going to use Jenkins. If you want to manage the application in multiple servers, along with this Jenkins, we should use Docker and Kubernetes. For monitoring the cluster and application logs, we are going to use these monitoring logs like Prometheus, Grafana, and ELK. Next, whatever the build artifacts are there, we need to store those artifacts in the repository for future purpose. As a build artifact repository, we are going to use Nexus. Next here, as a web server, we are going to understand Tomcat, guys. Right, so Tomcat, we are going to understand as web server, guys. Web server. Okay, fine. Guys, now observe carefully. Earlier, all this process, whatever I have written here, all this process is a manual process. Earlier, all this process is a manual process, guys. Now tell me, in a day, how many number of times the developer will commit the code into the source code repository? N number of times. N number of times developers will upload the code into the source code repository. If they make any small change also in the code, they need to upload those changes in the source code repository. If they put small comma, if they put full stop, or if they give small space also, they need to upload the changes in the source code repository. So like that, in our team, multiple developers are there. So all those people are working on different functionalities. So how many number of times they will upload the code in the source code repository? 1 time, 2 times, 10 times, 100 times, n number of times they can do. Whenever developer upload the code in the source code repository, immediately as a operations team engineer, you need to clone that project, you need to compile that project, you need to do the code review, you need to deploy the application, you need to create the Docker image. All these things you need to do. All these things you need to do, guys. How many number of times I need to do all these things? How many number of times developers are commit the code in the source code repository? Those many number of times you need to perform all these activities in a day. And if they need 100 times, yes, you also need to do 100 times all these things. If they need 1000 times, yes, you also need to do 1000 times all these things. And if I want to do all these things 1000 times, how much time I need to spend? Lot of time you need to spend. So then what will happen? Delivery will become late. You can't able to deliver the project to the client on time because of this bloody manual approach. Because of this manual approach, right, delivery will become late. You can't able to deliver the project on time to the client, guys. That's why to automate this complete process, DevOps came into the picture. So now, by using DevOps, what we are doing? By using DevOps culture or by using DevOps process, what we are doing? We are automating this complete delivery process. Understood, guys? Why DevOps? If you don't have the DevOps, this is the manual process. Manually, you need to download the code by writing some commands. Manually, you need to compile and package the code by writing some commands. Manually, you need to perform the code review by writing some commands. Manually, you need to deploy the application by writing some commands. Manually, you need to create the Docker images by writing some commands. Manually, you need to deploy the application in the Kubernetes cluster by using some manifest file. Oh my God. These many things I want to do manually every day, multiple times, lot of time it will take. To avoid this manual efforts, to avoid this manual process, DevOps culture came into the picture. With the DevOps culture, whatever the operations team job is there, that operations team job, we are automating with the DevOps culture. Is this clear, guys? Is it clear? Please respond. Why DevOps is clear?
Yes, it's clear.
What is DevOps? DevOps is not a programming language. DevOps is not a framework. DevOps is not a tool. Then what is this? Just it is a culture. Just it is a process. Just it is a set of practices which every software company should follow. With this DevOps culture, we can deliver the project to client easily and quickly. With this DevOps culture, we are automating the delivery process. Okay. So now, guys, here, so now development team and this operations team should work collaboratively to deliver the project on time, to deliver the quality product, to deliver the project quickly. So both teams, development team and operations team should work collaboratively. That's why we can say DevOps is the combination of development plus operations. Some people are feeling, hey, DevOps means development plus operations. So as a DevOps engineer, I should know the development also. I should know the coding also. No, that is not the meaning, guys. That is not the meaning. So DevOps is nothing but combination of development and operations. Means what? Both the teams should work collaboratively. That's why we are calling as development plus operations. DevOps means combination of development plus operations, means both the teams should work collaboratively. Okay, guys. Before going to start the development only, your project management will tell, hey, we are going to start the development. Before that, we need the complete setup of this setup is required. We need complete setup. So first you need to make it ready, this setup, and you need to give it to the development team. So they will start the development. Whenever they complete the code in the GitHub repository, automatically, already you have done this setup. Already you have done this setup, guys. Let me show that setup once. Guys. Right. In our real-time project session, we will discuss that, guys. Let me show that real-time project setup. See, guys, observe carefully here. Yes, so this is the setup, guys. So this is the setup which we need to do beginning only. Right, before starting the development only, we need to do this complete setup. Then tell to the development team, they will start the development. See, guys, the main tool is Jenkins. Here Jenkins is going to play the main things, guys. Right, we are integrating the Maven with the Jenkins. We are integrating the Sonar with the Jenkins. We are integrating the Nexus with the Jenkins. We are integrating the Docker with the Jenkins. We are integrating the Kubernetes with the Jenkins. Okay, whenever developers are uploaded the code into the source code repository, we don't know how many number of times developers will upload the code. N number of times. Whenever developer commit the code in the source code repository, immediately my Jenkins will get the notification. So whenever Jenkins got the notification, it will go to the source code repository and it will clone the project. We don't need to do. Already we have done this setup at the beginning only. We have automated this complete process at beginning only. Our job is done. Whenever developer commit the code, immediately by using our setup, Jenkins will clone the project and Jenkins will talk to Maven. Hey Maven, I have the project. Could you please clean that project? Could you please build that project? Yes. Maven will do that job. Once it is done, Jenkins will talk to Sonar. Hey Sonar, this is the artifact which is created by Maven, and the Jenkins will upload that artifact in the Sonar queue. Sorry guys. Here what Sonar is doing, guys? Once this build completed, Jenkins will talk to Sonar. Hey Sonar, I have this project. Could you please do the code review? Yes, Sonar will come and Sonar will perform the code review. Then Jenkins will upload the build artifact in the Nexus repository for future purpose. Then Jenkins will create the Docker image for our application and Jenkins will upload that image in the Docker Hub. Then Jenkins will deploy that image in the Kubernetes cluster. This automatic process, you no need to do anything. Already we have done this setup. Beginning only we did this setup. So whenever developer commit the code in the source code repository, Jenkins will get the notification. Jenkins will clone the project. Jenkins will talk to Maven to build that project. Jenkins will talk to Sonar to do the code review. Jenkins will upload that build artifact in the Nexus repository. Jenkins will talk to Docker to create the Docker image and upload the Docker image in the Docker Hub. Jenkins will deploy that image in the Kubernetes cluster. So as a DevOps engineer, this is the setup which you need to do, guys. If you did this setup, then your job is completed. So developers will use this setup. Every time you no need to come, and every time you no need to clone the project, you no need to build the project, you no need to do the code review, you no need to upload the artifact in the source Nexus, you no need to create the Docker image, you no need to deploy the application in the Kubernetes cluster manually. We have automated this process. Whenever developers are commit the code in the source code repository, automatically all these activities will perform. Understood? With this DevOps culture, what we are doing? We are automating all these things. First stage, cloning the code from the GitHub repository. That is the first step. Next, build the application. Next, code review. Create the Docker image. Upload the Docker image in the Docker Hub. Deploy the application in the Kubernetes cluster. Upload the artifact in the Nexus repository. See, all these stages are automated. Whenever developers are commit the code, automatically all these things should perform. You no need to do manually. Before DevOps, here whatever the 7 stages I have mentioned, all these 7 stages are manual process. Manual process, guys. With this DevOps culture, we automated all these 7 stages. Are you guys clear? Clear this? What we are doing with the DevOps? Yes, guys. Here we are creating the Jenkins CI/CD pipeline. In the CI/CD pipeline only, we will write all these stages. In the CI/CD pipeline, as first stage, we will write clone the code from the GitHub repository. As second stage, we will write the build the application. As third stage, code review. Fourth stage, create the Docker image. Fifth stage, upload the Docker image in the Docker Hub. Sixth stage, deploy the application in the Kubernetes cluster. Seventh stage, upload the artifact in the Nexus repository. Where you will write all these stages? In the pipeline. In the Jenkins file, we will write all these stages. I hope everyone is clear. Respond, please respond. Please respond, guys. Please respond.
Yes, it's clear. It's clear.
Very good. So now let me add some points in our notes. Right? So what we have written, DevOps is not a programming language. It is not a tool. It is not a framework. Then what is this? Just it is a culture. Just it is a process. Just it is a set of practices in the software industry. With this DevOps culture, we can deliver the project to client easily and quickly. DevOps is used to automate the delivery process. Automate the delivery process case. So now we can say DevOps is a combination of development plus operations. Development plus operations. Okay. Next case. Next, with this DevOps culture, right, development team, with this DevOps culture, development team and operations team, it will work collaboratively, guys. With this DevOps culture, development team and operations team will work collaboratively. Both teams will work collaboratively, guys. Okay. Next, guys. Right, in every project, if you go to any project, guys, we can see 2 times, guys. In every project, right, we can see below 2 teams, guys. What teams are there? One is the development team. Second one is the operations team. One is the development team. Second one is the operations team. Right. What is the roles and responsibilities of the development team? Roles and responsibilities. Development team roles and responsibilities. What is the roles and responsibilities of the development team, guys? As per client requirement, development team should understand the requirements, guys. Whatever the client requirements are there, development team should understand all those requirements. Development team should understand the client requirements. Then only they can develop the application properly, guys. Development team should understand the client requirements. Next, development team should prepare the design documents for the given requirements. Development team should prepare the design documents for the given requirements, guys. Next, guys, development team will implement the code as per client requirement, you by using some programming languages. Next, development team should upload the code into source code repository. Guys. See, guys, what are the roles and responsibilities of the development team? Development team should understand the client requirements properly. Without having proper knowledge on the client requirements, without having proper understanding on the client requirements, then they can't able to develop the application. Without having proper understanding. If they start the development, what will happen? Lot of issues will come, lot of bugs will come. So that's why first they need to understand requirements very clearly. So once requirement understanding is completed, they need to prepare the design documents for the given requirements. And they need to implement the code as per client requirement by using some programming languages. And they need to upload that code into the source code repository. Fine. So what are the roles and responsibilities of operations team? Roles and responsibilities. Operations team, roles and responsibilities, guys. Right. What roles and responsibilities are there? Observe carefully, guys. So they will create the infrastructure as a operations team. Right. They will create the infrastructure by using Terraform. They will create the infrastructure. Next, they will do the installations. By using Ansible. They will do the installations. Next, download the code from the source code repository. Source code repository by using Git client software. Next, guys, right, build the application. Yes, download the build the application and package, right, and build the application, right, package as artifact. Is build the application and package as artifact. So by using Maven. Next, guys, perform the code review by using SonarQube. They will perform the code review. Next, guys, perform the code review by using SonarQube. Next, guys, right, upload the build artifact upload the build artifact, in the artifactory repository. Upload the build artifact in the artifactory repository. Artifactory repository, what we are using? Nexus we are using as artifactory repository. Next case, deploy the application in the server using Jenkins guys. Right? Next, to run the application in multiple environments easily, they will use Docker. To manage the Docker containers. They will use Kubernetes. Next, to monitor the logs of cluster or application logs. So we are going to use monitoring tools. What monitoring tools we are going to use? Example, right? Prometheus, Grafana, ELK. ELK stands for what, guys? Elasticsearch, Logstash, Kibana. So these are the things we will use to monitor the logs of cluster and applications, guys. Everybody is clear? What is the roles and responsibilities of the development team and what is the roles and responsibilities of the operations team? As an operations team, first you need to create the infrastructure by using Terraform, and you need to do the installations by using Ansible, and you need to download the code from the source code repository by using Git client software. You need to build the application and package the application as artifact by using Maven. You need to perform the code review by using SonarQube. You need to upload the build artifact in the artifactory repositories. You need to deploy the application in the server using Jenkins. You need to run the application in multiple environments easily by using Docker. You can manage the Docker containers by using Kubernetes. To monitor the cluster logs and application logs, we are going to use Prometheus, Grafana and ELK stack. What is the roles and responsibilities of the development team? They need to understand the client requirements. Right? The development team should prepare the design documents for the given requirements, and development team will implement the code as per client requirement by using some programming languages. Development team should upload the code in the source code repository. I hope. Is this clear? Everyone is clear, right? Nice. Fine, guys. For today, I'm stopping. Remaining things we will continue in tomorrow's session. Okay? Fine. I think already Stephen and Babajit, right? You both. I think Babajit, you haven't shared your details, guys. I asked mail ID, provide the access for Google Drive, and I asked you to log in into the Telegram group. From there, you can access the class notes, and I asked you to log in into the WhatsApp group. From there, you can get the daily updates. Okay, please share your details first. I will give the access. Stephen, I already have given. Right? So, Babajit, you also please do this. Right? Guys, remaining, if you have not done the payment, please done for the end of the day, guys. I will provide the access and everything, guys. Yeah, you have shared. I will add.
Ola is gonna send his money, some part of his money as well. So. You can give him access.
Yes. So definitely. Babajit, I have please log in. Please share your email ID, then I can add you in the Google Drive. For Telegram, directly you can join. I have shared the Telegram link. You can join in that.
Yeah, I shared my email with you.
Okay, okay, fine. I will check and I will add.
On
I will give the
WhatsApp.
access today. I will give the access today.
Yeah,
Right? Fine. Thank you, guys. Thank you so much for joining us. Tomorrow we will continue remaining things, guys. Thank you. Have a great day.
Okay.
Have a good day. Bye.
Okay. Okay. Bye.
Bye bye.
Recording stop.